Hello and welcome all to our EG EnerKey's webinar from hours to seconds, how AI is changing energy management. My name is Iiro Kuntsi. I am working here as the Director of Product Management for EG EnerKey, and with me is our AI team product owner, Karri Kallio.
Hi, welcome.
Today we will go through, as agenda says, how we have developed AI now in EG EnerKey. And if you have any questions regarding the topic, please do use the comment option or the question option for the chat, so we can return to the questions and answers later on in the session. But firstly, let's start what we have today for the agenda. I will shortly go through our product vision and Kaisa AI agent roadmap. Then Karri will have a live demo of Kaisa AI agent in our production environment, as well as then we will go in detail by Karri some details about data, security, capabilities of Kaisa, best practices, prompt libraries, and so on. But yeah, let's go to the agenda.
Yeah, should we start with the vision? What you had in mind, Iiro, for the product?
Yes. So I always like to start with EG EnerKey's and EG Omega's product vision, and this actually started. We formed this vision last year during the summer for the next 3 years, 26 to 28, and we have named it Reinventing EMS, meaning that when we are now going into the new possibilities with AI technologies, we worded out our vision for our EMS product that we are helping sustainable and cost-focused organizations to reinvent their facilities, energy management work in an intelligence-driven world. So now that we are talking about AI and the functionalities, it is just not that we are creating a new AI functionality. The outcomes we want to reach and will affect the outcomes and the processes, how we do energy management and how you do energy management.
Exactly. So, Iiro, where do you think we're heading with our development on the upcoming years?
Yes. So actually, a week ago, some of you may have noticed this. We released our first version of Kaisa AI agent called the Read Initiative to our production environment for our customers. And this is just only the beginning of our journey of developing AI agents for EG EnerKey and EG Omega. So now what we now have released, the Kaisa AI agent, is a feature that Kaisa can now provide any type of question prompt from the users based on facility, meter, consumption, weather data, or INS saving potentials, and do calculations on those. We are also now actually next Monday releasing a feature that users can also input documents that Kaisa can use and provide answers based on. So this allows, for example, organization-specific instructions or other that type of data that doesn't yet exist within EG EnerKey or Omega for Kaisa AI agent to provide answers on. And we have also introduced a new type of, I would say, innovative user interface and user experience that has not been available in an EMS setting. It's a very familiar if you have used some AI tools, but in our EMS domain, I would say it's quite really innovative and user-friendly. But we are not stopping there. Throughout the rest of this year, we will start developing Kaisa's generate phase. So first of all, now Kaisa can read data and answer to questions and prompts. That Kaisa can do with some kind of a, let's say, on a basic text or a grid basis with numbers and so on. But in the future, Kaisa will also be able to generate visualizations, downloadable files, and for example, based on report templates, selected frameworks, and so on. So moving just from giving answers from the data to producing reports and outcomes. From that, we will move on to next phase, which is then not just generating something or giving answers, but actually updating the data what we have in the EMS system. So if user allows, Kaisa could and can update or mass update facility meter information, even create facilities meters, alarms, comments, or actions. And this also will include suggesting efficient ways for the end users that how they can automate and send consumption deviations to facility management systems as we are developing within the EG prop core combination as well. And after that, we are moving even to a more an autonomous stage that the AI agent or Kaisa can set up automatically if, of course, so user wants and has his preferences, that Kaisa can follow up consumption based on scheduling, doing reports based on schedules, maybe setting up alarms, comments, actions, and automating workflows, and only involving the user and giving information, asking based on the preferences and or when needed. So we are actually going and reinventing how EMS is done and automating a lot of it.
Thanks, Eero. So what makes Kaisa different from using a generic AI service like ChatGPT?
This is actually a topic that we may face many times, and I get asked. These generative AI systems, large language models, they're always stochastic systems. So they are, even though the outcomes are sometimes really good and they can be generative and creative, they're always partially random. And with a reporting system or an energy management type of a system, which is deterministic from its core, the stochastic system, we cannot just give data to the language models for them to give answers and possibly even hallucinate numbers. So what we have done here, we have combined the deterministic system. So data is always based on the actual data you have on EG EnerKey or EG Omega, and they always produce the same outputs with the same inputs. And of course, creating then the answers, understanding your needs and prompts, creating, let's say, the visualizations. For that, the stochastic system is great. But we have made sure that the data is accurate and as in the system.
Thanks, Eero.
But from here, this is kind of the basis where we started, the vision, the roadmap, what we have developed, and now it's time for Karri, you to take over and show live from our production environment how does Kaisa look like and what it can do.
All right. So now we are at the EnerKey portal, and here in the profile we have activated Kaisa. So now Kaisa is visible here on the top bar and accessible from there. So this is the starting screen from Kaisa, giving you greetings and giving you some disclaimers that this is an AI system that you're using now. So taking a look at the basic features that chat assistants have, as well as Kaisa. So we have conversation management here. So let's take a look at something like this. So I have asked before making a summary of apartment facilities where district heating consumption has increased the most in percentage in January, March 26 compared to 25. And then doing some calculations based on that. So here we see a nicely formatted answer from Kaisa. You can also kind of dig in deeper. So starting from a smaller prompt, like just one sentence of can you pull the last month's electricity consumption for office building 2? And okay, it gives a shorter answer, and then let's dive in deeper. Let's do daily data. Let's look at the data quality. Are there any anomalies? Kaisa then pulls out the daily data and analyzes that. Okay, we can continue even further. What's the relationship with the weather? Any days that pop out from that? You can also do something like technical strategy memo and have a lot longer answer from Kaisa with suggestions on how to what actions should you maybe make. And then moving on here, for example, consumption, outdoor temperature, and the correlation between consumption and temperature during the heating season. So I'll show you quickly some of the features that Kaisa is basing its answers on. So we have this kind of thinking block here. So Kaisa is when it's reasoning and thinking about something, it's outputting those. So it's basically thinking out loud and outputting those thoughts into here. And then here on the chat UI, we also have this kind of tool traceability. So you can see what data exactly is Kaisa basing its answers on. So if you want to kind of audit or trace, okay, this answer doesn't look right, let's check on what data it's actually basing its answers on. So you can actually check these, and here you can see it's calling to get some profile facilities, and then quantities, meters, consumptions, weather readings, and then it's doing some mathematics or so pairwise statistics in this case to ensure that the calculations are accurate and not actually done by the LLM itself using its internal logic. So yeah, let's jump into some live prompts. So I'll just show you with how does it actually look live when it's answering to you. It's getting pretty quick answers here, and we can always then dive in deeper to these. But I just showed you this one, so let's actually make a longer prompt, and then I will show you the pinning feature of Kaisa. So because this is not just something that you'll stare at the screen and wait for it to answer, you can also pin Kaisa there, and it will then return to you with a completed sign. So you can get back to what you were doing in EnerKey, and then go look at the data sum reports, and whenever Kaisa is ready, it will then signal you here that it is actually ready with its answer. So now it's telling me about the data quality for my office buildings, and it has noticed a few of these office buildings that they don't have electricity data at all for that month. We also have this terms of use page currently under the cogwheel here. So this is basically a informational page for you as a user, that you can see, for example, the data scope that Kaisa currently has. You can see the underlying large language model. We are using currently the GPT-5 series for Kaisa. and, for example, privacy and data handling, etc. But yeah, Iiro, do you have anything else to add, or should we jump into rest of the slides? Not hearing you for some reason.
Sorry, I was still muted, even though I thought I was
Sorry.
not. But yeah, thank you, Karri. Let's jump into the slides, and maybe we have gotten some questions to the chat, but one question we always get is that a lot of organizations and teams are never nervous about putting their data into AI tools. What happens to the data, energy data, and what does actually happen when we use it? What would you answer to them?
So yeah, I think the key thing here is that to be compliant with the data sovereignty and security, your data never leaves the EG EnerKey platform. It's always EU only processing, so we use only deployment modes in the language models that are based in the EU only. So the data never crosses anywhere else. So with general purpose AI tools, your data can actually be used to train the model that you're using. So none of that is happening here.
Yeah. How can then you make sure, I mentioned that we have created this kind of a system that you can rely on the answers, that they are still deterministic and based on the data, that Kaisa doesn't just make up, let's say, consumption and so on. How is that possible, or how have we made it?
So for the auditability, as I also showed on the live demo of Kaisa, we can see the whole tool called Trace that Kaisa is basing its answers on. We can see the whole thinking part, and we can trace back to the source data of what data actually is Kaisa using for those answers. So it's not making things up, it's basing its answers on the data that it's querying.
And what data, as actually, I mentioned some of the APIs and the data Kaisa has access to, but what are the capabilities of Kaisa at the moment?
Yeah. So the core data sources of Kaisa is what I actually think are the kind of what makes an EMS. So facility data, meters, energy and temperature measurements. I think those four are the core EMS data, and Kaisa is integrated with those. And also as a bonus, we have added INES analysis results to those that currently have INES in EnerKey. So they also have availability to the analysis results, such as savings potentials. And about the trusting of numbers, as I showed in the live demo as well, we have built in some calculation tools for Kaisa to use those mathematics tools and statistics tools, some data science plugins as well. So all numbers should be numerically precise, and no calculation is relied on the LLM's ability itself to do those calculations. And kind of a notification about the limits of Kaisa, and maybe also every LLM, but Kaisa especially, as we work in the kind of EMS ecosystem, we are using mainly time series data, and on a more finer resolution, and with many facilities and many quantities and long time periods, the broad requests can really stretch the working memory, and we are working with the technical limitations of current language models and their context windows. So, but But we'll come back to that limitation on the best practices and how to avoid those situations.
Thank you, Kari. Yeah, there was actually a question on is there limitations how much I can use Kaisa. You will get back to that. And maybe a question also from the chat. What languages Kaisa understands?
So it actually understands all of the languages. I guess we have tested it on Finnish. We have tested it on Danish. It is working very well on those languages. And as you may know from using general purpose AI services like ChatGPT, they are quite good at the languages. And also Kaisa has the context of all of our kind of the domain knowledge. So it is also understanding of those things with the local language.
Yeah, and I have to add to that. I know Norwegian and Swedish are working also really well. So generically, how well, as Kari said, LLM can answer to your local language, so can Kaisa. So
Yes.
that is the principle for us. But then this, seems really powerful and nice to have this kind of open availability for Kaisa. But if I'm new to this prompting and so on, how can I even start? Where do I start from as a user?
Yeah, well, actually, we have put in the work already, so you don't have to stare at the blank page and think about, okay, what do I use this for? We have made the work and we have created a prompt library, and it's available from the link down below, possibly even from the chat, but from the Kaisa landing page in EG website. So we have identified these 4 kind of core roles or use cases and categorized the prompts around those roles. So we have energy analyst, sustainability manager, property manager, CFO and finance. And we have created the library for those. So go ahead and check that out.
Yes, exactly, and I like to say that with Kaisa, if you're a specialist on energy facility domain, Kaisa will make you a super specialist. And if you do not have experience or you are not a specialist, Kaisa will help you to get the same outcomes as a specialist. So elevating everybody around.
Yeah, well said.
But you mentioned the best practices. Do we have any kind of good tips how to get best out of Kaisa? What differentiates a good or a bad prompt or good or a bad question?
Yeah. So I think everything boils down to the kind of scoping of the data. As I mentioned, as we work in EMS, the time series data is the kind of biggest blocker of getting good quality questions. So I'd say a good advice is to maybe start with broad question, and then if Kaisa notices something that, okay, these might be worth looking into, then you can reduce the scope. Go look at those 3 facilities, maybe drill down into a specific time period that Kaisa has noticed, and that sort of thing. And the point on the right about being specific, I think this ties to the data scoping as well. So if you are specific with the period, the quantities that you want, the resolution, and the amount of facilities. For example, in some of my demo prompts, I purposefully had, can you look at my apartment facilities, because that's getting a smaller subset of facilities, which is much easier to work with. And you can always use Kaisa many times, but if you try to get too much data into the context window, it can be pretty difficult for Kaisa to provide a good answer with so much data. And I guess this middle one, then the fresh conversation, I think applies to all of the chat AI assistants, that if you prolong the conversation for too long, then it can start to hallucinate on the answers more regularly, since every chat you send always carries the whole conversation with you. So I advise you to change whenever you change topic or have a new question, then start a new chat. I think that will elevate the quality and elevate your experience.
Thank you, Karri. And I want to also mention that, of course, even with our newest release, the first release we did last week, we are constantly, as always, every 2 weeks releasing a new version of EG EnerKey and EG Omega SaaS. So we are continuously, of course, based on the roadmap, but as well as otherwise increasing the performance and usability and tooling of Kaisa, also broadening its access to the data within EG EnerKey. Kaisa will get, I would say, much more powerful and capable throughout the next months even. If you're interested in please do, of course, contact and ask us. We are really happy to also provide a personal demonstration of Kaisa with your own data available.
Yeah, of course. Well said. But I think that was it for the presentations, and we now have time for a Q&A. And I think we have 3 minutes left on the clock, so we'll use most of that for the Q&A.
Yes. So we already went through a couple of those. There was a question of the limitations. How much can I use Kaisa? There are, on top of what Karri mentioned, the technical restrictions, there are some limitations of the prompt amounts due to just security reasons, how much you can use Kaisa. But of course, our approach is that you can use Kaisa as much as you need to get the value out of it. But if you're more interested, please do contact us and let's look into more detail. We also answered the question of the languages. Then there's a question, where can I find more information on the technical details and security? And there is a link shared into the chat on egsoftware.com. So there is a very broad explanations how, regarding technicality and security details of Kaisa AI agent. So please do check that out, as well as there is a relevant information on the web page linked to the chat as well. Also, we had a question about reliability and transparency, and I think we already answered that a couple of times throughout the presentation. But I think, Karri, we can move on to the next slide. At this point, I would really much thank you for attending this Kaisa AI Agent webinar. If you are interested in getting a Kaisa AI agent for your organization, please do contact us either via your own EG EnerKey or EG Omega account manager. You can email our support or through the Kaisa AI agent landing page to ask contact so that we can get back to you. But nevertheless, as mentioned, we are more than happy to discuss Kaisa with you. And if you are now interested, we have a special offer of a trial period for the early adopters of Kaisa, and a possibility for you to be a part of developing this, I would say, future-proof new way of reinventing the EMS with us. So please do not hesitate if you're interested in contacting us.
Yes.
But as mentioned, yeah, please do, Karri, your last words.
No. My last words. Thank you very much for attending. I hope you had a great time and learned a lot. Thank you very much, and hopefully see you soon.
Thank you very much. And the recording of this session will follow up later on to everybody registered to the webinar.
Yes.
Have a great week.